It's the Movie Toasty Show, here for you. Dennis and Adam joke about orgasms and sweet movie reviews. We talk about TV too, right?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Movie Toast.
Hey, what is up, Toasties? I'm excited to do some toasting here today. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing great, man. We're at episode 203. We're just getting into December. How was your Thanksgiving, Dennis?
It was lovely. Got to go out to Georgia, visit my sister and brother-in-law and the nieces and nephew, and had a really nice time.
Yeah.
It was a wholesome little family Thanksgiving.
Nice.
What about you, man?
Nice. Just stood at home, was lazy, typical boring.
Chilling out though. That's
for sure.
There you go.
Watching movies, at least got a lot of movies in, so I can't complain.
Did some of the same, mostly when I was flying, but gotta wedge those movies in, gotta get that toast in. So
that's for sure. But before we get to those, maybe we can get to a little thing called news.
Oh, let's crack it open.
Gather round, folks, it's time for the scoop. Tune your ears in, let's join the loop.
All right, let's get into the loop here, Dennis.
I don't know. It's going for a scoop.
Yeah. All right, up first, we have a new comedy movie that was just announced that was co-written and being co-financed by David Spade and Theo Von, a movie called Busboys. It's set in a border town in Arizona. The film follows David and Theo, two friends that think becoming waiters will solve all their problems. They are wrong. And that's all we have. I want to know why these two guys would think being waiters will solve their problems.
Right. Or why these two decided this was the project. Interesting. I mean,
right,
I gotta
not
be
only
honest,
to write, but to throw your money into.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The two of them together, though, kind of makes sense. But what you just described is not what I would have guessed they were going to do. Used car salesmen.
Father, son, uncle, nephew.
Yeah. Uncle, nephew. I like that. Joe Dirt 4. We just skipped 3. Let's just go right to 4.
Have people wondering what happened to the third one.
Right. That's the whole plot. They just keep referring to like a plot that we never saw.
Now that's a cool concept for a movie. I'd watch that. David Spade would sell. I miss seeing David Spade on the big screen. I assume this would probably be like a streamer type thing, but
straight to stream.
He's a good actor. I don't know Theo Von too much, so
I've seen a little bit of his stuff. I've heard some of his like comedy, and I know he's got the podcast and live stream and stuff. I don't know. Who knows with those things? That's such a wild platform to be on. I don't really understand myself. But he seems to be doing very well with it. So
people love him. I guess he's on tour right now with the stand-up. So yeah, I mean, good for them. I'll be intrigued. They're going in production in Los Angeles the beginning of the year. So probably have this by this time next year, I'm assuming.
All right. We'll have to check. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Let's check that out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Up next, Bill Burr has found his next follow-up film. As we all know, he had the movie Old Dads, which had mixed reviews. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but he's still sticking with it. He's writing, directing, and producing a new sports film called Born Losers. The premise is being kept under wraps, but it's in association. It's being co-financed by Skydance Sports. And apparently Bill Burr has his own new production company called North Hill. So this is going to be a movie with that. By the title Born Losers, I assume it's about some underdogs.
Right. Like a Bad News Bears sort of situation happening. I don't know. I'd still check it out. The Old
Oh,
Dads
yeah.
did not deter me from seeing some more Bill Burr on the big screen. Although I got to be honest, I'd love to see some more Miggs Mayfield, but that we'll have to hold out hope. That's
you know, maybe
honestly
he's going to be in the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Oh, that would be Goku. It's his cousin.
That's That's Yoda's real name. Little do people know.
Yeah, right. Don't
as he slurps Gogurt.
Thought I shed that name. I did.
But no, I really enjoy Bill Burr. After watching Old Dads, I went back and I actually checked out F is for Family, like you suggested.
Oh,
you told me for a while it's great. And I'm like, I watched the pilot when it came out. I'm like, fuck, I don't like this show. And then love that show. So I'll watch anything Bill Burr does, I think, after that.
Yeah.
And
people he just has that voice, like not literal voice, but the writing.
I mean, he does have a literal voice that does it too.
It's pretty good. It is really good. He's a one of a kind entertainer, and I hope we get lots and lots more of him. So I'm looking forward to his sports. Like that's and totally in line with him too. Like I'm very excited to see what he's gonna do with that story. So
definitely
let's have it, Bill.
Speaking of seeing what's going on with stories, they just announced that a new studio has gotten the rights to Slumdog Millionaire, and they have the rights for a film sequel and TV rights. And it's not known whether any of the original stars are coming back or how they're going to follow up without actually having the original stars back. Like, how do you do Slumdog Millionaire without Dev Patel? I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting. This movie came out, in 2009, 2010?
Let's say almost like we
were in college at the time. Look how young he is in this poster.
I know, right? He's such a young kid. That's so funny. It's another one of those where it's like, it's been so long. Do we really need it? But as we saw in our last episode of Movie Toast, I really, really enjoyed Gladiator 2. Sure. And even with that much time passing, you can still like follow it up very well. So I guess we'll just have to find out and see.
It's interesting because, I mean, there's so much you could do with the sequel, like essentially seeing what he does with the money, how it changes his life. Does it corrupt him a bit? Will he be the type of person who like doesn't pay his tax? There's so much you could do, I suppose. And isn't this loosely based on a true life story?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then to do a series about it, that's even more interesting. It's like,
right. Like, are we diverting away from the real person incredibly and just like sticking to the story depicted in the film? Yeah, like you said, we'll just have to see. But that's an interesting property to continue, though.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, why not? Speaking of continuing properties, again, Dennis, Ryan Reynolds is coming back to do a Mighty Mouse feature film that's being co-written with him and the co-writer of his 2021 movie Free Guy. So I don't know.
Okay. I really enjoyed the Mighty Mouse kind of like those cartoons.
Right.
I thought it was really cool.
And especially putting like a modern Ryan Reynolds twist on it could be a fun.
He's going to respect the core of where it came from, and he's going to want to pay homage to it in the right way, but he's going to do it his way, right? Like, so I don't know.
I wonder what it is with him in retro mouse cartoons, because he got this, and over the summer they announced he's doing Biker Mice from Mars. I'm wondering if he has a thing for animated mice. Watch out, Mickey Mouse.
Turns out he was watching the same cartoons we were watching, and then when you think about it, it's like, how old were you?
Makes
Wait
sense.
a minute. It's like,
well, I mean, Mighty Mouse, I guess, and I guess
Mighty
Mighty
Mouse is quite a bit older. Yeah,
20s when Biker Mice came out, and it's an interesting premise. You're going to want to check it out.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah,
token up watching Saturday morning cartoons, and
heck yeah.
Biker Mice from Mars comes. I mean, you can't turn the channel away from that when that comes on.
No. You gotta stay tuned.
Nice. All right, Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then up next, Tom Cruise and Doug Liman are re-teaming up for a new movie called Deeper, which is a scary movie. And Doug Liman said, "I've never done one, and neither has Tom." So they're kind of excited. Apparently, it follows an astronaut who encounters a terrifying force while on a deep dive into a never before explored trench. I don't know.
So Tom Cruise is just going to ignore he was in a movie called The Mummy, and
we're gonna switch it up.
I've never done horror before, but Tom, weren't you in the movie? I said I never have done horror before. Oh,
that was a comedy, and you know it,
right.
folks.
Once I heard everyone,
Sure, was supposed to be a part of the dark universe. Dark is dark comedy.
He jumps.
I don't know why he's so angry.
Dark. It's a comedy.
Did you see how funny Russell Crowe was as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? There's no way that was scary. Come on.
Oh my god.
But I mean, these two have done great movies together. You get Edge of Tomorrow, and that's the thing. Everyone assumed that was coming. Why do this? But at least it's an original concept, which is always nice to see.
It's refreshing. Let's not do whatever 14 or let's do some more of this. And with practice hands like this, they know how to work together. All right, let's check it out. I'm always up for the sci-fi horror too. That's always a fun combination of genres.
Right. And speaking of refreshing, Dennis, a couple of months ago, I reviewed and loved the Apple TV Plus original film Wolves, which was written and directed by John Watts. One of the reasons he left the Spider-Man franchise was because this was going to become his next big franchise. He even left doing Fantastic Four for this and Skeleton Crew. But he got screwed over. This was supposed to have a theatrical wide release, and they only did a very small release, changed it all on him last second, didn't even tell him about it. And they announced before this one even came out that we're doing a sequel. It's coming. And it turns out it's not, because he was so angry by what they did. He feels like he can't trust them. He returned the money that they paid him for writing the script and says he has no interest in doing it anymore.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Normally you get bullshit reasons, but he just let it go, man. He wasn't afraid to say anything.
I got it. Kind of got to respect that. That's pretty cool.
Right.
Instead of just taking the money and running, like, it's like, no, fuck you. That's not. Oh man.
And it sucks because the way that movie left off, I'm like, how are they going to make more of this? This is insane. And I loved every second of it, but I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Better off leave it a one and done and maybe revisit it later on if all parties are excited about it, but don't half-ass it.
We'll say did incredible work on Skeleton Crew so far.
I'm intrigued to hear about it. I haven't started it yet, but
been loving it. Been loving it. Just,
nice.
And I know it's only the first 2 episodes, but the same thing I keep saying, that we don't need to keep centering every story around Skywalkers. Guess what? This one works wonderfully. So, anyways, that should probably be its own entry.
No, for sure. I want to hear about that. Yeah, a little deeper.
I'd be excited to dig into that one, but set that aside for now.
Sure. All right, our next news story here, Dennis.
Yes.
Mia Savaro has gone on. She's been talking a lot about doing a Romy and Michelle sequel, and recently she told People Magazine a deal has been done with the director, and both she and Kudrow are on board to executive produce for a sequel. The original screenwriter Rob Schiff has written multiple drafts of an amazingly funny script, which checks all the boxes for all the fans. And almost every single character from the original that was important is coming back. This is all pending. They're making deals right now, and but it's looking like it's very close to being greenlit.
That's awesome. Those are 2 performers that I don't think could ever lose their excellence, like their level of talent. That I couldn't doubt for a second that they're going to still be very entertaining, bringing the story back, especially like in real time, like all this time past, seeing where they're at. Like that. Well,
that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, is this going to be another reunion? Because at this point, it's going to be. I think the first movie was the 10-year reunion, so this would be their 40-year reunion. So it's like so much has changed, but you want to hope these characters are still the same.
Would you think that Alan Cumming would return?
Oh,
as Saint, like,
man.
That'd be awesome. I mean, Jeannie Garofalo would be amazing too, but I can see that not being necessary. But
but the reason she said the characters are coming back that were kind of integral, it's like I don't see why not, and I bet those guys want to come back and have some fun. A couple of days.
I think that would be cool. That's fun.
Right?
Yeah, that just sounds like a good time. So it's still a funny movie to this day, and it's a great little time capsule.
And the concept is
it
just
came from,
so ridiculous that it works.
And it's still sadly true. There's always that feeling of like, am I going to measure up to everyone else after all this time passed? And I think it's a timeless story of, I want to put not only my best foot forward, but I might, flub a few things just to make it look even a little better. And that could be a good time. That could be a good time.
Heck yeah.
Check it out.
Maybe they invented something this time around.
Right. They actually did
Post-it note or Velcro last time.
Post-it notes. Yeah, maybe it's post-it flags. Like they actually like
they took it seriously this time.
Right.
And our next story I think should be interesting. You've been reviewing the Equalizer movies a couple of episodes back, and Denzel has been doing press, of course, for Gladiator 2, and he has gone on to say he told the people behind the Equalizer films that he would do another Equalizer, and they're doing 4 and 5. And he knows the audience loves it. He knows they like to see him kicking ass and making the bad guys pay. So I don't know. Hopefully he doesn't burn it into the ground like Liam Neeson's done. But I think Denzel can keep that, especially after showing.
I believe that. Yeah.
How much fun he had doing Gladiator too. It's like,
exactly.
How can he not?
It's one of those things where I think the tone of the third one, it was like trying to be so self-aware about we are watching our character ride off into the sunset sort of feeling. And even to the point to where it was like the shortest of the 3 films. And
and there was a lot packed in there.
There was. But it's like there were certain elements about the first 2 that we just didn't get to enjoy nearly as much in the third one. So I'm really hoping if they're doing 4 and 5, then go back to taking your time, develop the stories and the relationships between the characters, develop the villains. That's what we kind of got shorted of in the third one. I like hearing all of these. Exactly. And it's like, and
you're in Italy. You could have done so much.
Yeah. Yes. There should have been more locations. We should have been more abroad. But hey, I think if Denzel's sending back
to their roots and maybe go back to Boston. They ended the movie in Boston. Maybe shoot 4 and 5 in Boston and put some people to work. Use that,
please. There's a little town in Massachusetts that could use some could use some attention. I think. All of a sudden,
Italy's great and all, but why not see some shitty, slummy little suburbs? I don't know. I'm excited.
I got a target in Norton, Massachusetts that needs protection.
Boy,
that'd be sick.
Oh man. And then James Gunn has been doing some press for Creature Commandos, and he has gone on to say that he's not retelling the origin stories of Superman or Batman, but he is interested in retelling the origin story for Swamp Thing, and that's actively in development.
That'd be cool. That's another. I like these sort of organic villains, or not villains, but
anti-hero.
The scary hero, anti-hero characters, that are based in like the horror sort of world. That's badass. Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Superman. No disrespect to him.
Yeah, I'm with you.
He's always just like same. It's same with Cyclops.
Goody two shoes.
I don't like the Boy Scout characters nearly as much. It doesn't mean there's no value to be had, but someone like Swamp Thing, hell yeah. I would love to see that.
And I feel like the 80s movies were fun. I know a lot of people really dug the DC Universe app show that they had, but it was so hard to try to find it.
Very short-lived, yeah.
Nobody could really watch it.
And it's like, can you even see it now? Like, is there an easy way to access
it? I know at one point I think it might have been on Max, but they pulled so much, I doubt it.
It's like,
but
I believe it disappeared from there. But
I heard like they built like an actual swamp and then like a water stage, and like just the details they put into just the show. It was so highly budgeted, it was hard to keep it afloat. So with the film, I think you could do so much with it, really.
Yep.
And what I really do dig about what they're doing, or hopefully doing, James Gunn, they're not he's even gone on board saying, we're not just gonna greenlight a movie and rush a script. We're gonna make sure the script's there before we actually greenlight it, because so many movies are garbage because of that.
Right. It's why I appreciate they're taking their time with like the big gap between seasons is Peacemaker. I want it to be a good story. I had enjoyed the first season so much,
which I think he just wrapped.
Yeah, 2. Hell yeah. So it's this is the pacing Marvel, if you're listening, this is the pacing you should have. Trust that your audience will return, because they're always going to be there. We're like the comic book fans are always going to want to come back. The comic book movie fans are always going to come back. Just let it breathe a little bit. Let us enjoy other things. Like
it.
Exactly. We just had that first season of Penguin for those that have access to it.
And I heard everyone loved it. I can't wait to get on it.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Like, honestly, I've been trying to sludge through Agatha, but it's a rough one. I don't know if I'm going to finish it.
I mean, after Val and I watched, I think the first 3 episodes, we haven't got back to it. I mean,
that's
I keep saying eventually, but
it's all like, the same thing essentially. It's like, oh, we're trapped in a house with a different time period. They're like, let's try to have the magic of WandaVision with these witches, and it's like, yeah, it's not there.
It's not the same. I mean, the characters are fun. The cast is incredible. You've got some very, very talented performers. Catherine Hahn is awesome, but I think it's just not quite as gripping as I really wanted it to be. I'm sure it still is for a lot of other folks, but it's just not striking the chord for me. So eventually, but then again, I still never fully finished Loki. So, and that was leaps and bounds better.
That I highly suggest revisiting.
And that's the thing that's higher on the list for me than finishing Agatha. So.
And that was my issue. They both, Agatha and Penguin, came out at the same time, and I'm so behind on so many shows. Like, I'm now just almost finishing the last season of The Boys right now. I'm like, I didn't have that, and I'm like, holy shit, this is so good. Why have I been sitting on this?
Oh, it is. So, that was good. Fuck, that's another one where it's just I've never been bored watching a season or an episode of The Boys.
And they always say, oh, we're upping the craziness. And it's like, okay, how? And then it's like, oh.
Holy shit.
I just read Eric Kripke is like, oh, yeah, it's good. This final season, there's no guardrails. And I'm like, there's been guardrails?
There's been guardrails? We saw a dick explode. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, man. Right? But our last article here is staying in the DC comic books world with Daniel Craig and Luca Guadagnino. They have their new movie Queer that just came out. They've had such a good time doing that. They want to do Sergeant Rock over at DC Studios.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Damn. There's a property. Right? Interesting. Wow. Okay.
It's funny. A couple of months ago, me and my brother were going through some old comic books that we had that we were trying to sell, and I had a bunch of Sergeant Rock things. I don't know if we sold that off in like the mix of things. It's like, if only we knew, we could have tried to hold off a little longer.
Oh, yeah, when the hype came back, yeah, damn.
But it's interesting because it's like, all right, we've seen Daniel Craig kick ass in so many movies, but to see him as like a war vet type guy, I don't know, it could be fun. And this director has such a unique visual style and vibe to his films. I don't know. It could be interesting blending that in with comic books.
Right. It's not like we haven't seen a gritty war or comic book centered film, but to all of these components compiled together, I mean, Daniel Craig is just going to send it. Like, he's going to be fully committed to this character. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's
right.
I'm up for that, man. Badass.
Right.
Now, I'm curious, do you think they're going to set it? Because it's originally he was fighting in World War II.
I believe, yeah. I think they'd have to. But
put it right back there.
The interesting thing, I think this character is appearing in Creature Commandos, and I know that is going to have some sway into live action stuff too. But I don't think Daniel Craig's voicing him, because I know Frank Grillo has a character in there that's going to be in movies later on, they claim, and I don't know. So
he's
maybe this is a nice
changing teams.
Yeah. Hey, he'll take any money, that guy.
Hell yeah.
But I don't know. I'd be intrigued to see a period piece DC movie done right, maybe.
Yeah, me too.
And I think I know there's not too many Sergeant Rock things out there, but I think a couple of years ago, even Bruce Campbell did a couple of books with Ash and Sergeant Rock, I think, or Sergeant Rock taking down Demonites or something.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's a good point though. I feel like we haven't seen a period DC thing since Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah. I mean, are we considering? Well, I guess I was going to say Jonah Hex, but that's technically not in that.
That was earlier,
but that was
yeah.
Well,
but I mean, that's another good example of that period piece
Western
character. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. Could be fun.
Cool. Yeah, I'd check that out.
For sure. And I guess we can get into our next segment here, which is always our fun times with polls. All right. Up next with our first poll, we have on episode 202, I reviewed the latest Hugh Grant movie, Heretic. Sorry, I had to think for a second. There's so many Hughs on screen. So I wanted to know what the Toasties' favorite Hugh was. And by what, I mean who the Toasties' favorite Hugh was. Out of Hugh Grant, Hugh Jackman, Hugh Laurie, and Hugh Bonneville.
Now, look, I love me some 101 Dalmatians, but I think the Wolverine has to take it over Notting Hill here. Hugh Bonneville, I'm trying to recall specifically who that is off the top of my head.
See, that's the thing. Like, I had a hard time. I'm like, I know I've heard the name, and then I'm like, oh, he's in the Paddington movies. That's.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and like,
I don't watch Downton Abbey, so.
Which don't even get me started. I didn't bring up in our news stories. Paddington in Peru just came out in the UK a couple of days ago, maybe a week or two ago. But we were waiting until January for it, and they just pushed it back to February. I don't know why these sick fucks are keeping Paddington from America.
Why? That charming little teddy bear. Let's share the love. I get he's British. You guys get him first. But he's kind of a big deal here too. There's a lot of Paddington fans. Yeah.
And there's also a lot of fans of the Hughes, Dennis. Let's find out what the Toasties thought. 0% for Hugh Bonneville.
No.
It's like, give the guy at least 1%. Don't be assholes.
Right? Oh, yeah, that's too bad. No one.
14% for Grant.
No one's here for the. Oh, okay.
29 for Laurie. Were you about to say nobody loves you, Laurie?
No. I was going to say maybe it was the hooker thing. I don't know, but Dr. House though, he's going to get some love.
I'm shocked. I figured Laurie would have been a little under, but yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's the past catching up. So of course, to no one's surprise, 57% for Jackman.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, how do you... Although, when you really think about it, besides Wolverine in the X-Men, what has been his big movies? Like
Les Mis.
Okay, you got me there. Les Mis.
That was a pretty big one. Swordfish is a pretty big one.
Australia.
That was on my mind too. Although I feel like the movie didn't do super well, but
there's not many. Like, he's just been owning it as Wolverine. It's like, if that's all he did.
He's done a lot of stage. I know he's done Broadway, and he can sing. Like, he's got some talent that the other Hughes. Well, Hugh Laurie can sing as well.
He's been on stage too. I think the lore.
I want to say he's in a band. Hugh Laurie.
I want to be shocked.
He's released albums. I know I've listened to some of his stuff before. But yeah, I mean, come on, it's Jackman's.
Yeah.
The Hugh.
You gotta love the Jack.
The Hugh.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of you gotta love, on the last episode, I reviewed the latest Clint Eastwood film. So I wanted to know what the Toasties' favorite Clint Eastwood movie was out of American Sniper, Gran Torino, $1 Million Baby, and Mystic River.
Those are interesting choices too, because I like that you left out some of the more obvious Like Unforgiven left that out.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
This is, I feel like, a much tighter race.
And everything's slightly different. It's all different genres.
Yeah.
And not your typical. I don't want to always just give out your basics.
Damn.
Which, like, for me, it's a toughie between Sniper and Torino because I really like both. But
American Sniper is like, it's beautiful and heartbreaking. Mystic River, though, I remember the first time I watched that, it was one of those. I'm like, oh, it's a drama. I pushed it off for the longest time, and then Val finally had me watch it with her, and I was just blown away.
Oh yeah, I put it off for a while, and one year I came back home on like a vacation, and my dad was watching. I'm like, oh, is this what Mystic River is? All right,
right. And that isn't that one in Boston too?
Yeah,
took place in. Oh, nice. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is a really tough race for me personally.
So I think you're gonna lean towards $1 Million Baby. Hillary's swanking it.
Except all I could think of is that episode of Sunny.
I remember
when Dee starts boxing and Frank is gonna train her and all that stuff. The $100 Baby, I think, is the name of the episode. But Gran Torino's fantastic too. I love the that unflinching look at an old man's racism and
then how he can change.
Yeah,
did he change? I felt like he changed.
Power. Yeah, he did, and sure went down swinging. But
hell yeah,
God damn, yeah, no, that's a great.
Some might say he cried macho.
Yeah,
I did not watch that one.
Oh,
all right, let's find out what the Toasties had to say.
What did the Toasties say? What did the Toasties say?
12% for our buddy Morgan Freeman in $1 Million Baby.
Fair enough. I'm surprised it was
15 for the Coops in American Sniper.
Dang.
32% for Gran Torino.
What? Okay.
Right? I'm with you. Little taken back by that.
Yeah.
41% for Mystic River. So I guess if we're looking at it, they're fairly close. Not too far off.
I mean, that's true. I honestly thought it would be a little closer.
Yeah,
but fair enough. Like with the last poll or the with the Hughes, there's no zeros here. If there was a zero here, I would have been severely disappointed.
There's no Bonneville of the movies from
exactly. There isn't a Bonneville among the titles. So,
which if anybody was intrigued by the review of Juror Number 2 from last episode, it looks like it should be heading to Max right around Christmas. If you're looking to see a little courtroom drama,
I'm looking forward to that, man. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So maybe we can get into the main part of our show here, Dennis. The big part.
Let's do it. Let's do some reviews, man.
Nice camera action. It's review time. Dennis and Adam, we gonna blow your mind. We're stepping up to the plate, ready to swing. Analyzing movies like a scientist would play.
All right, folks. Up first, Dennis is coming, and he's coming hard with the movie called Midway.
Ooh, yeah. All right.
That just sounds like he came in his pants thinking about it.
Real hard, as Adam said.
So.
Limitless. Bradley Cooper. Okay. Midway.
Drink that pulp juice.
Right. Yeah. Oh God. Midway is a film that came out in 1976, starring an incredible cast of characters. You got Henry Fonda. There's Pat Morita is up in there.
Ooh.
Tom Selleck.
Is he rocking a stash?
Robert Wagner. Oh, no, he's like a lot deeper. He's deeper in the background. Eric Estrada, Cliff Robertson.
Chips.
So Uncle Ben from the original Spider-Man, Sam Raimi movies. There's like 30 big stars that are in this film. It's honestly that
were they big
was enough
then,
to
or
get,
were they still blowing up?
They were the older actors were big then. The younger guys, Eric Estrada and such, they were starting to still kind of carve out, their piece. But this is telling the story of the infamous Battle of Midway. This was the next large-scale assault that occurred after Pearl Harbor during World War II. And Americans are still reeling. Our naval forces are still either under repair or we're still trying to reassemble our Pacific Fleet the best we possibly can. The Japanese Empire knows this. Admiral Yamamoto, who's in charge of the Japanese Navy at the time, he went to Harvard. He lived in the United States for some time. He has deep respect for our military forces, and he fully understands that in order to maintain control of the Pacific and to reach the West Coast of the United States means we need to make some very bold decisions. He wants to send the entire Japanese Navy into Midway. The American Navy is very, very few of them believe this is a possibility. It's like of all the options, of all the maneuvers, of all the things you could possibly do, this would be like the bottom of the list. Most people, like Washington D.C., is like, there's no fucking way they're even going to attempt this thing. But the intelligence officers who've been listening to radio transmissions from the Japanese are all like, look, this is happening. We've observed enough things, we've heard enough things. There's too much consistency with the stuff that we're listening to. You need to take this very seriously. So Admiral Nimitz, who is in charge of the Pacific Fleet for the United States, he puts his admirals and captains in charge of, look, I want you to respond to this as best you can. Let's do this. Let's counter their potential offensive against our station at Midway. If we lose Midway, we're losing their furthest naval station away from Hawaii at the time. John Ford, the director, actually was a naval intelligence officer at the time. He was stationed at Midway. So he's there was a really cool documentary, I believe Spielberg had released, about the four big Hollywood directors at the time who were serving in the military that recorded incredible, just intense, horrifying footage of World War II. That this was some of the footage where it came from. So we're trying to rally what little of our Navy we have and sending it that way. Japan sending 10 ships, including aircraft carriers, to Midway. The United States has 2 aircraft carriers, a handful of battleships, and they're sending their best pilots their way. And it becomes this chess match, and it's really, really fascinating. Where the film itself actually uses a lot of like real battle footage and stuff to truly show like just the lengths they were going to and what they were facing. You get a little bit of this kind of melodramatic storyline where you have I forgot, James Coburn's in this too. You have one of the admirals, his son is a pilot, that he falls in love with this Japanese girl in San Diego that her parents live in Hawaii and they were arrested. So she's coming to like help them out. They want to get married, but it's a whole cultural thing where her parents don't want her to marry a white guy, and he's getting pressure because he's in the Navy, and they're like, well, why are you marrying a Japanese girl after Pearl Harbor? Like, so there's this pressure coming from both ways, but it's all about, no, this is true love. Like, we really do care about each other. She's not like a spy. Her family isn't spies. They're just proud Japanese
That'd
people.
Be pretty cool if they were.
Oh, it's that's what's interesting about this. It feels like we're telling the story with as much respect as possible to both sides. It's not like there's a little bit of language that isn't like the best.
I mean, this is from the 70s, so you're bound to sadly have that.
Yeah, but there is some incredible respect shown both ways. Of like, there's this really cool scene where Admiral Yamamoto on his command ship is even saying like, there's these 12 bomber pilots that almost all of the planes get shot out of the sky, and his comment being, those are some of the bravest pilots I've ever seen. They're fight like samurai, and that's impressive coming from American military. And it's fascinating to just see the way this all plays out. So it picks up well after Pearl Harbor, and trying to convince Washington that we need to act on this information. And then we're seeing the buildup. We have to fix all the ships that were damaged in Pearl Harbor. We need to send out the forces that we have, and once all that gets going underway, we're seeing the Japanese side of it too. And that's one of the cool things is it's almost split 50-50 that we're seeing each side coming at each other. And I think that's
Can
the
you
thing
kind of
that
root for either side at that point, or
maybe not. I wouldn't say root for either side so much as respecting both sides. It's like I said, it's this very well calculated chess match, and it comes down to the finite details where once the Japanese Navy realizes that the Americans have literally sent everything they have as well, and they've placed them in just the right place, that while they're trying to hit Midway Island, they're getting hit by these aircraft carriers, and they're having to refit. They have all these bombers that had land-based bombs that were supposed to hit the island. They now have to switch those bombs out for torpedoes to hit the ships. Well, now the ships seem like they've sent all their aircraft, so we need to switch those torpedoes back to bombs, and they get caught in the middle of now their aircraft carriers are susceptible to attack, and it's this incredible fight back and forth, and it was so gripping. I honestly was so impressed. The performances top to bottom were fantastic, which I would expect no less from these guys. Like all of these huge players. Henry Fonda absolutely kills it, as one would assume Henry Fonda could do. Everyone. I mean, it gets a little melodramatic with going back to the love story thing, but it resolves in such a heroic and caring manner that I really liked the way they treated it. They didn't make it too cheesy. It was more speaking to the emotions of, I'm sure, many sailors and many airmen at the time. All of the seamen that had to fight in such horrific circumstances. Hey, I mean, that's what they're called. It's a profound moment in American and Japanese history. This is literally the battle that turned the tide of the Pacific Theater, was this 24-hour period right here. And Midway from 1976 still stands the test of time, in my opinion. It is available for streaming on Netflix. You can go check it out now. I highly recommend it. And it's really, like, if you're into this type of film, if you're into military films and stuff, and you haven't watched this one yet, really pay it the respect it's due. It's really worth watching. So please go check that one out. I'm going to give Midway 3 slices of toast.
Oh, not bad. All right. I got something a little more goofy, a little more laid back. I got the new Peter Farrelly movie, Dear Santa. All right. This movie is about a boy who's going through some troubles, not only at school, but also at home. And something's happened to him in his family, but we don't fully know what it is until later on in the movie. But the biggest issue here for this young man is he is illiterate and has some learning difficulties. And he thinks it's kind of cute to send Santa Claus a letter, even though most people in his age bracket already know Santa's not real. But he wants to do it to kind of make his mother feel good. So he writes a nice, loving letter to Santa. Little does he know, he spelled Santa wrong, and it ended up going to Satan. And then, poof, the Dark Prince appears and offers to grant him 3 wishes. And the boy's like, what? Like a genie? And he's like, well, genie stole that from me. And he's like, what's the catch here? And he's like, not much. Just you gotta give me your soul after the 3rd one. And the boy doesn't think much of it. He thinks, all right, this is Santa's a little bit different. Grants 1 wish, goes pretty smoothly, but then he starts putting the pieces together and realizing, oh, you're Satan. And then it becomes, how do I not wish anymore? And Satan tries kind of befriending him, and the two kind of bond a bit, and wacky antics ensue. And
that's a funny
this
setup.
movie is, it's pretty interesting. Like I said, it's from the Farrelly brothers. One half wrote it, one half directed it, and a fantastic cast. As Satan, you got Jack Black. As the boy's parents, you have Brianna Howery. I don't really know her, but Hayes MacArthur, a really good, like, kind of character actor. But then you have a great supporting cast: Keegan-Michael Key, Post Malone, PJ Byrne, and honestly, my favorite cameo in here is a little guy named Kyle Gass. Like a nice little old school throwback to when Jack was in something, Kyle's in something. But it's interesting because this is a family movie, but it's a little more PG-13. So there's some harsh language, some situations not suitable for some kids, but everyone can enjoy this. The
like the high
humor's
school
really
age
sharp.
family sort of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe
Nice.
let's say like 11 on, I think should be all right with it.
Okay. Okay.
Now it feels kind of like Beetlejuice meets Aladdin with a little Christmas sprinkled in there. And it's really interesting. Everyone's giving pretty good performances, and the kids are pretty good in this. There's the boy Liam, that's our main character. He has his best friend Gibby, who he makes lie to his family, saying that he is going through chemo and he has cancer because his parents kind of don't believe that he has friends, and it's kind of goofy. And then there's a girl Emma that he has a crush on. All pretty solid, and this boy Liam's having a good year, I think. Because he is one of the stars over on the show we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, dang.
But,
nice.
Yeah. So it's a fun, if you want something different for Christmas, check this one out. It's, I don't know. I enjoyed it. And I'm going to give Dear Santa exclusively on Paramount Plus 2.5 slices of toast.
Okay.
Now, it's funny. I put out a little movie crumb, a little review of this over on our TikTok and whatnot. And our old friend Danny D'Ambra commented, and she's like, Jack Black was the only good thing about this movie. The rest sucks. I'm like, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm always the sucker for a Jack Black movie, but I'll be the first to admit he couldn't even save Borderlands. So I don't know. We'll see. And an interesting little Easter egg here. Our main character, Liam, is wearing some Minecraft shirts here and there throughout the movie. And I'm
That's funny.
and then Jack's starring in that later on. Interesting.
Appreciate the response there, Danny. Thank you for the comment. No, that's awesome. That's an interesting like mix of worlds too. I like that they kind of acknowledged itself a little too. You've piqued my interest though. It's
definitely worth watching.
It's like I remember hearing about it a little bit. I'm like, oh, I don't know, but
it could have been dicey.
I am much more intrigued to see this.
And it's under an hour and 45 minutes, so it's
beautiful.
A quick watch.
So you're just boom, you're in and out. Nice,
right? Yeah. All right, you have a movie that I reviewed back in the pandemic that I dug, and I want to see what you have to think about it. Fucking Unhinged.
All right, yeah. So I apparently I still had Russell Crowe on the brain. I was looking for things to download onto my phone, and Netflix was just like, hey, this is something we think you might like. And I don't think it was entirely wrong. So this is a little flick film that stars Russell Crowe, of course. He is a piece of shit right away, right out the gate. Oh, it's even before the road rage, he finds out his wife is cheating on him. And he murders his entire family and the affair, the other guy burns his own house down with his whole family inside, and just walks away somehow. And the very next morning, he's stuck in traffic with our main character, Rachel, played by Karen Pistorius, just a single mother trying to take her kid to school. She's having a rough go of things. And she's trying to keep it all together. She's talking to her lawyer friend, played by Jimmy Simpson, which I know we're both fans of that guy. And again, just trying to get him to school. She cuts off the wrong guy. It all comes down to
we've all been there.
Circumstance, and they're stuck in traffic next to each other. And a Southern accented Russell Crowe rolls his window down and starts talking some shit. And finally, and I love that line delivery of, you're going to have the worst day of your life. Like he's just like, I'm going to make sure you learn a lesson today. You will never forget. And it's coming into a movie titled Unhinged. You get the idea. Like this is the whole point. Like this is what we're all about here. I'm going to say right out front, Russell Crowe, best part of the movie. He's so good at playing this leading villain that's commanding every time he's on screen, as he should, because the guy is he hasn't lost an ounce of talent, I would say, especially in a movie like this. My only issue, The issue for me with this film is how predictable the plot ends up becoming. And it's like they do some really cool, intense, gritty, brutal stuff. The some spoilers, folks. It doesn't affect the end plot, but he kills a character on screen, Jimmy Simpson, when he meets him at a diner and just brutally murders him in the middle of
daylight.
A busy, crowded diner. People are filming it. He does not give a fuck. That to me, honestly, was so cool to see this villain just go for it. Like he has nothing else to live for.
He's overweight, Russell Crowe. He's just so menacing.
Yeah, he's the creep factor he has. Like I honestly, about halfway through this, I'm like, I want to see more of this version of him.
Right.
I really like him being the bad guy. He's so goddamn good at it. What really started to bother me though was our main character and her son. I don't know if it was the dialogue or the directing that they were given, the direction they were given, but they just weren't very convincing to me and kept pulling me back out. I hated how being hand-fed. Every time I heard a specific piece of information, I just like, oh, Jesus Christ, really? Okay, so obviously we know the stupid Fortnite strategy you told us in tremendous detail at the beginning of the movie. I was just like, oh, well, we're going to have to see that play out. Going to Grandma's house, so yeah, except we're never going to see Grandma, and she has nothing to do with that whole thing, like escape plan thing.
Grandma?
Yeah, there were so many things about this that I just kept reminding me I was watching a movie. I kind of had a rough time with those, but then the brutality of Russell Crowe's performance would come back, steal my attention again, and put me back into the moment. Even when he was fucked up bleeding and was still able to get away, I'm like, all right, that's fine. Good, because I need something to be like afraid. Like I want to be worried about something. We got to keep this movie going. But it is only 90 minutes, like a clean hour 30, super fast. It worked out perfect because I was on a leg of my flight where I got the whole movie in and was still able to read some of the Star Wars book I was working on. It's still some fun. I still think there's some entertainment to be had here. It's not the sharpest thing you're going to see, frankly, any of these cast members in, but I don't think it's necessarily something you have to skip. So Unhinged, I'm going to give 2.5 slices of toast. You can catch it over on Netflix as of now. I want to say it might have been on the leaving soon list. I might have that wrong.
It'll be somewhere else.
It'll be, yeah. But it's a thriller that I think is fun to throw in the lineup if you're looking for something else to mix up, especially if like you need a break from the holiday movies or something. Boom, throw in something nasty like this. Yeah, not a bad flick though. Not a bad flick.
Well, your movie may have been 90 minutes. My next movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Ooh.
I'm talking Wicked. All right, so I didn't know too much about this going in. I never saw the Broadway musical. I mean, I'm just going off of what I've seen in the trailers. I'm like, all right, that's interesting. I'll check it out. And so basically, this is well before The Wizard of Oz. It's a prequel, even though it does start with the end of Wizard of Oz, right after the Wicked Witch has been killed. But then we're thrown into a flashback. This essentially is about our good witch, Glenda, and our Wicked Witch, we're going to call her Elphaba, when they were young ladies. And they were at a magical school together, almost like Hogwarts. They were mismatched. Everyone thinks Glenda's this kind of superwoman, just humble, kind, generous, down-to-earth lady, but she's really manipulative and kind of a bit shallow. And then you have Elphaba, this green witch who is kind of looked down upon by everyone, treated differently, always has to have her guard up, but she has the best of interest for everyone in mind. And essentially the two don't get along, and then they got to learn to get along. And then we're getting to see Elphaba kind of being seen for the first time, because even her family has looked down upon her. And now she's kind of being respected for what she can do and who she is. And that gets to the attention of the Wizard of Oz himself. And she goes to meet him. She's so excited. She's praised this man her whole life. But like they say, sometimes you shouldn't meet your heroes, because this starts the downturn into turning her into the Wicked Witch. And we're getting a lot of different origin things here. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it flew by. And this is only the first half of the movie, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Yeah, they're not really marketing it as part one until you're sitting in the theater. But yeah, and everyone has been ranting and raving about how fantastic the music is. But for me, I didn't dig the music. Like, I love the music in Wizard of Oz. It's some of the best, most classic music. And this is a completely different type of music, which is understandable. And the Oz itself is kind of different because it's before it was as vibrant and lively from when we see it later on.
Okay.
And this movie is darker and more menacing than that movie. And there's other things going on here, like kind of dictatorships and suppressing people and minorities. And it's interesting because animals can talk, and there's an animal teacher at the school that Elphaba really takes a shining to. He's the last animal there, but he is essentially taken away. And we learned that they're trying to get animals to stop speaking because they're afraid that animals will have an uprising. And it's like, oh, this is weird, because as we know later on, we have like the Cowardly Lion. He talks in school. And our character that I'm talking about here is voiced by Peter Dinklage. So fantastic performance there.
Awesome.
But the interesting thing is, in the Wizard of Oz, it's people wearing these outfits and whatnot. But in this, they're just full-blown CG looking like a goat or whatever. And that kind of was weird to me. But I get it. It's a different
like
thing.
removing the humanoid aspect to it kind of was taking you. Interesting. Okay.
Because it was based more in reality in that way, which I respect. But when you're used to seeing one thing and then you see another, it's like, oh, okay.
Of course.
And then we learn Elphaba, she is a member of the Munchkins. Her family are part Munchkin, but she's regular size. All the Munchkins look regular size. So I'm like, this is kind of weird to me, but whatever. But honestly, I could have done 100% without the music and still have loved this movie. And the music wasn't the worst, but it's just none of the songs were like stuck in my head. I wasn't really rooting for some of it. And honestly, in the beginning, some of the instrumental parts of the music were drowning out like Ariana Grande's music and whatnot. Which was weird.
When you have her singing in the movie, like, let's hear Ariana Grande sing. Now I'm curious. Now knowing that it was like a stage musical first, are you familiar with how many of the songs are from the play?
I believe they're all pretty much.
So there's nothing original for the movie.
There may be. But I do know at least John M. Chu, the director, was working with the creator of the musical, and he was writing things for it.
Nice.
So there were some minor changes here and there throughout, and some cameos that fans of the musical will like and respect. But I will say, it's funny, like, the acting's pretty good. Like, Ariana Grande is just this bubbly, kind of out there character and just ridiculous. And Cynthia Erivo is fantastic as like this like loving character who always has to have her guard up. And then there's a prince in here who's just kind of like this bumbling, kind of lovable prince. But Michelle Yeoh is in here, and she's a teacher who you love. You're like, oh, this lady's great. She's respectable, but there's something dark and deep down that you just don't want to trust her about. And but my favorite part of this movie, whenever this one character was on screen, the Wizard of Oz himself, Jeff Goldblum, stole the show. He was killing it, just having a blast, Goldbluming it up. And I can't wait for the next movie where he's going to be an even greater presence, I believe. Oh, man. I really had a blast.
Awesome.
I didn't think I was gonna. It's funny. I went with my mom. She hasn't wanted to go see a movie in forever. So I'm like, yeah, let's come with me for sure. And she's like, I think they could have got better performers to sing the stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is kind of like a big music star and another, whatever. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Interesting getting someone who doesn't know any of this stuff. But yeah, it was interesting seeing someone else's point of view from it. But overall, I'm going to give Wicked 3 slices of toast.
Awesome.
I thought it could have been a little bit better, but it definitely could have been a lot worse. I enjoyed every second of it. I'll watch it again sometime, I think.
Awesome.
Looking
No,
forward to
it's like I was really excited to hear your review. It's still on my list. We just haven't had the time to make it to the theater
For
yet.
sure, you've been traveling.
Val's also not as big on the musicals, and she's not a big Wizard of Oz fan. So this might be one I have to see on my own at some point. But growing, I feel like you and I have that commonality of not only the nostalgia, but watching Wizard of Oz like as a child, the significance of not only the music in it, which I know is a big deal for a lot of people, but it's that visual aspect and that wonder and that incredible going from the black and white format to full color and going through this. That journey is incredible visually, and it's an emotional journey as well. So I was really excited that they were finally making this into a feature film, and now that's cool. I feel kind of ignorant not realizing it was a 2-part film, but like you said,
that's the thing, they weren't marketing it that way. So I feel like some people might like be kind of awestruck by that, like when they saw Dune Part 1, they're like, oh, what? I gotta wait. But I hear everyone who knows the musical and loves it, they're like, oh yeah, where they decided to end it, that's the best number in the show. That's where intermission comes in.
Perfect.
So
cool.
They're like, that's good, but they're a little weary, wondering what they're going to do with the next half of the movie because the songs aren't as good in their opinion. Because the way it ends, this last number, everyone loves. And to me, I'm like, oh, this is the best song in the movie. Okay. And the song just never ends. There were so many points where I'm like, it's going to be over now. Like, I knew that was the end of the movie. So I was grabbing my jacket. I'm like, I'm ready for it. And it's like, oh, it's still going. 5 more minutes. Still go. All right. Cool. But I mean, and that's the thing, like you're saying, the original was so beautiful, and like this is like that, but not at that point yet. It's a little more monochrome.
Okay.
But what I do like here, you're getting backstory that will pay off later on. Like there's a moment in here, like where they liberate a baby lion, who was caged and being treated kind of poorly, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that grows up to be our cowardly lion, and that's the reason he's cowardly. I don't know. And we see the flying monkeys literally morph from monkeys, painfully growing wings, and that's like, holy fuck! I guess brutal. That had to happen somehow, but it's brutal. Like, there's some really cool things that will foreshadow what we're gonna see later on.
Dang, I'm all excited for this now, dude. I mean, I was looking forward to it, but that's great to hear.
I mean, there is some CG and green screen, but they built a lot of practical things, which I really did respect about this.
Thank God. Yeah. That's we need more of that. Nice. Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. So up next, we both saw something that I think you'll lead us off with.
That's right. This is a little flick that came to us from Hulu. And it is starring Ben Stiller, who has not been a leading man in a feature for 7 years. Nutcrackers. So this is telling the story of a real estate broker kind of guy. He works for a big real estate firm. They're doing this really big project in the city of Chicago, renovating a bunch of train tracks and all this shit. And he's on the verge of this huge deal coming through. He's been working on this deal for like 6 years. And then unfortunately, his sister and her husband have passed away. And they have 4 children and have been living on a farm out in Ohio. As the next of kin, it is up to him to now go out and kind of settle everything out. And immediately, right out the gate, he's like, okay, we gotta find a home. We gotta find someone to adopt these kids. He's not down for this. Obviously, he's driving in his Porsche out in these farm fields and making his way out there.
Literally, it's a dilapidated farm. Animals everywhere. These boys are running amok, running wild. He doesn't even know them because he's estranged from his sister after she got married.
Yeah, he knew like a couple of them as babies, but never really knew him. And it's after this rift that had come up between them, which we find out later was because of a financial arrangement. His sister was not okay with him loaning this large sum of money to her husband's business, and they fought about it and haven't spoken since. So he's kind of trying to be present, but he's really focused on his work at the time. Meanwhile, these four boys are the what's the name of the family? The Lieffelds or
I think that sounds about right.
They've kind of just been like running themselves. There's this I like that when he shows up, there's this other woman who's been watching them who's just had it up to here with their bullshit. And they've clearly been in control of the house. Like there's no one that tells these guys what to do. He's kind of just like thrown into the deep end right out the gate. He thinks this is all going to be super quick. Linda Cardellini is a social worker who's supposed to be in charge of finding them a family to adopt them, but she's been having a hard time. And makes sense. It's a very remote, small town in Ohio,
and 4 children. Trying to keep them all together is a little tough.
Yeah, from like 8 to 14, I think, is the age range that they're in, or like 7 to 13, something like that. So it's a lot all at once, and they have a large property. They have a lot of land. They have a rental space that was a dance hall. They have the farm, dance studio. They have a lot of farm animals that Adam had mentioned before. There's a lot of things that you actually need to kind of take care of in the end. So come to find out, they're kind of like they're a little out there, right? Like they came from living in a commune, which they left out of bad circumstances. They didn't like how the guy was running it. Turns out they realized they were in a cult and they wanted out. And this has led them to just kind of live the unusual bohemian.
But everyone in the small town knew and kind of loved these people.
Yes, they it's kind of there was a respect for them, especially their mom, who was the dance teacher, that she was a classically trained ballerina that was extremely good at what she did and wanted to just give this back to the community. So having set that story up, immediately I feel like the film starts in a specific tone. We kind of met with the Ben Stiller comedy sort of formula, which I was like, okay, that's kind of what I thought this was going to be. The trailer made it look like that. I'm like, all right, yeah, this is like it's funny, some slapstick things, some bit like not big effect heavy things, but like we see some kind of over the top like sort of stunty jokes that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But then
predictable premise, but getting
yes.
there and execution completely different.
Yeah, when we get the boys on their own. So like there's a moment, the first scene that really struck me is, oh, we are going a very different direction, was the boys decide to have their own memorial in the middle of the night. They start a bonfire, they take their parents' ashes, and they dance around the fire as they're casting the ashes into the flames, but they're doing ballet steps. And it's very beautifully shot. The music is great. And these boys are extremely talented. Turns out they actually are classically trained ballet dancers. In real life, their mother went to film school with the film's director. He always wanted to make a movie with them. This is actually their family farm. These are their real farm animals.
Real siblings.
Yeah,
literally. David Gordon Green was asked, "Oh, did you guys have to like spruce up the place and add stuff to make it feel more homely?" He's like, "No, if anything, we had to pull things out. There was too much there." So this is ransacked with a bunch of stuff already on screen, but literally it's lived in. It's shot on, I think, 35 millimeter. It just has this like authenticity about it, which is rare. Like these boys aren't trained actors, but by God, they have the chemistry together. And they know what they're doing. It feels good.
Exactly. And that's where the film starts to have a divide for me, because all the stuff that's centered around the children's storylines, like Justice with the girl from the dance class he has a crush on, and the younger boys still kind of like trying to carve out their understanding of the world and wanting to own their own personalities. I really liked that. And it had this very wholesome, very pure indie film feel to it. And it was very artistic in its delivery. And I really liked that. But then it was so juxtaposed by shoehorning this very like the classic like Ben Stiller comedic elements we're used to seeing. And it feels to me, now this is just my interpretation, it felt like we're trying to jam two different movies together into the same timeline, and it kept just kind of rubbing me the wrong way. And as you mentioned before, the predictability of some of the steps of the storyline were like, okay, when are you going to show me?
Itself was a little odd. Like the big grand finale, Stiller's plan to get these boys adopted is to let them put on their own rendition of the Nutcracker to blow everyone in town away with their skills that they'll love the boys so much they'll want to adopt all 4 of them. And of course, that's easier said than done.
Of course, yeah. And it was, and that coinciding with like the buildup of the his big company project that he's losing ground on, and then at one point it seems he's lost control of it, only to be begged to come back and fix all the problems.
Typical,
this other guy, which we never see the Kara or whoever the hell he's. We never see anyone. That was just seemed like such a cheap workaround too.
At least in the Hallmark movies, they cut away to these people.
Yeah, show me the office. Show me the other end of the phone line. Like,
show the big city.
It's not like
we pick up with him on the road going there. He's nowhere in the city. He's not at the office. He's halfway to this small town that happens to have no cell phone reception. They don't have any landlines. He has to go in the middle of this like pond to get reception, blah, blah, blah.
And it's always a different place they put him in. He's at a bar at one point. He's at a grocery store at another point just to get
the continuity's not there.
Calls. And I'm with you. The third act, honestly, you have all of this buildup, emotional buildup too. And he at this point, he's now betrayed the boys through certain acts that we've seen in the story, only to then just have it all tossed aside. And that was my biggest issue is like, you have 2 sides of this plot that just get thrown away and it's just magically resolved by the end of the movie. And I kind of felt cheated out of an ending getting written. Like you didn't actually close the story other than, of course, we conclude on something wholesome, but
something predictable.
Exactly. The whole, other than the charm of the interesting visual storytelling and the performances of the kids, like I watched this with Val and she was just like, oh, these kids are not actors. I'm like, well, it turns out they're not. This is the first thing they've ever acted in. But I kind of liked what they brought to the screen. I liked that charm, the honest, raw,
especially with one another. You wouldn't get that with 4 actors, young kids.
And that's what won me over for them. And then once they started dancing, I'm like, okay, that's clearly why they're doing this. Linda Cardellini, she did a great job. She wasn't in too much of the film. A little bit of Tim Heidecker, and he's funny in his couple of scenes.
Toby Huss, one of our favorites.
Yes, Toby Huss. Oh my god, and same thing. It's like you have these extremely talented performers we get in very limited doses that they kind of play the same note the whole time.
And it's a little bit, they're a little bit like, oh, do I like this character? Do I not like it? Like they all have these like leaning personalities. And I don't know. David Gordon Green is one of those writer directors who his stuff's never really stuck with me. Like I love the TV shows he does with Danny McBride. Love them. But his solo movies, I don't know. He can have fantastic cast. And it's like, okay, these are just weird middle of the line quasi dark comedies, and I don't know, man. For me, like it's funny you watch this with Val. I was trying to talk this up to Sarah, and we almost watched it, but I played the trailer, and she's like, I don't know, not for me. And then when you said you watched, I'm like, all right, I got some time, I'll watch it on my own. But I don't know. The one thing that really stuck out to me right from the the get-go hidden play. It's been so long since Ben Stiller's had such a heavy screen presence in front of the camera. He's starting to really look like his father, in my opinion, I think, which is interesting.
Oh, that's a good call. You're right. That's funny. No, you're right. Like just the way his face is kind of settling and like I love that he's not going to give up that haircut though. He's going to maintain
no, that's the classic.
And it's again, you get some of those slapstick moments. But
not too many.
No,
it's not very on point it's for Stiller.
Which is also like, then why did you even do it in the first place? Why didn't you just fully commit to the rest of the tone? That I think I would have enjoyed the movie a lot more because we know Stiller can do it. He could have 100%. Matched the energy that the rest of the film had. it's clearly a director's choice. It's clearly a writing choice to then try to serve all of these things at once. And I'm like,
yeah.
I didn't need that. I didn't need him falling down the stairs in the third act. I didn't
And
need
it
those
almost felt
cheesy.
like, there's a script, but it almost felt completely improv for the
Yeah.
most part. And it's like, come on. Yeah, you're like, choose a lane. Either be a Ben Stiller comedy or be a David Gordon Green movie. Don't try
Yes.
to be both because it's not landing.
I was more won over by the charm of what the family
boys.
element and what the boys were doing. Even if they weren't like super polished actors, it didn't matter because I loved that brutal honesty they were delivering on screen. From the mouths of the babes, as they say, with the things that they would say to him, I felt their pain, and I felt what they like. The way they were handling what they were going through was it played so well, but then it was constantly undercut by, and now we're going to drive a golf cart into a pool. Like it's
like at some point the boys were mature, other points they were boys.
Yeah.
And I felt like they didn't all have their own singular personality. They all worked together except for the boy who was interested in the girl.
Right. Yeah. Justice, the oldest son, is the only one who had like a voice separate from the other three, the twins and the middle brother. They kind of, I'm with you. They all kind of lumped together, not just because they all had long blonde hair, but like they weren't given enough of anything else to really like flesh out more.
Yeah.
So there's some charming things. I think there's definitely stuff in here for certain people to enjoy, but this is, first off, did not feel like a Christmas movie like the way they're marketing.
Not at all.
I was just like, all right, well, so much for that.
They shoehorned Christmas in at the very end of the movie.
Yep. 100%. I feel like we got
honestly
out of that. I thought I was watching a Christmas movie.
I've watched all the new Netflix Christmas movies. In my opinion, they were better than this, and they had C-level celebrities.
I honestly don't doubt that. I hate to insult all of like I hate to insult the attempt that was made here. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
Like the sum of the parts didn't create the thing I think they were aiming for. I don't know. What's funny is as we were talking, I had the number of slices in my head of what I was going to give it. And I'm like, no, I just heard everything I said. I'm knocking it down half a slice because even when we were talking about it, because like Val didn't even want to finish it. She was starting to fall asleep on the plane, and then I ended up finishing watching it later. I told her the rest of the movie, and she's just, oh my God.
I bet.
Yeah. Well, what'd you expect after everything else we saw? So
I love how it's like I could sleep on this airplane uncomfortably or finish this mediocre movie. I'm gonna take the first approach here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She had the neck pillow going. She was just zonked out.
For me, I'm giving Nutcrackers 1.5 slices personally.
I'm matching you. I'm also giving it 1.5 slices. I wanted to like it more. I hate coming out of a movie feeling that too, because you could see these components that are like, oh man, if you just would have done this or that. And this movie is full of that from beginning to end.
And the interesting thing, I've been looking forward to this for a couple of months now. I think this premiered at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival.
Yep.
And everyone loved it. It started a bidding war. So I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be good. It's Ben Stiller coming back to comedy. Fuck yeah. And then it's like watching that trailer. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess this is it.
And it's funny to see the aggregate scores start like coming in more and more of just like, and it's just dropping. Like, it's
but number one over on Hulu last night, at least still. So,
but
I don't know. People are interested.
People are wanting to check it out. So we'll have to see what
let's see where this lands next Christmas when people have had a chance.
I'll be honest. So today I turn on Peacock for us to like, we're just going to like play Office in the background as I'm going about stuff in the house. And there is an ad for Genie comes up. I'm like, you know what? I would rather watch that again. That movie was charming. It was funny.
Melissa McCarthy
in a Christmas movie playing a genie. I'm like, I'm
not gonna lie, I didn't love that movie, but I enjoyed that a lot more than Nutcrackers.
Yes, same here. Like that, but that's the comparison. It wasn't even like that great. Genie wasn't even that great a movie, but it was way better than this thing.
So yeah. All right, let me try to dig us out of this ditch here, Dennis.
Let's do it.
I have one of the biggest movies
Yeah.
of the year so far, and a movie that's making Disney some money once again. I'm talking about Moana Deuce. All right, so this takes place in real time after the last movie. Moana is now grown up. She's more matured. She's a wayfinder. She's great at what she does, but she feels a little bit lost. She feels like there's more of a purpose, and she knows of this island that exists. And now it turns out, we didn't learn this in the last movie, but she has not seen anyone other than the people on her island ever, because apparently this island has gone missing. This one island in the middle of the ocean that connects all the islands in the ocean, and that has gone missing. So she wants to go out and find it. She takes a bunch of villagers. She takes old farmer, a canoe maker, and a historian, along with her pet pig and her rooster or chicken, and they hit the high seas to go and find this area. But the reason they can't find it is because it's buried at the bottom of the ocean, because the god of, I don't know, some type of god, thinks that if people are able to connect with one another, they'll try stealing power away from the gods, and they'll try to run havoc on the world or some bullshit like that. Which, all right, cool.
The classic, like, Tower of Babel sort of story. Yeah.
So the only way to get this ocean back is for Moana to find her old pal Maui. And as it turns out, Maui is in a bit of a jam and could use her help right about now. And one thing leads to another, and they find one another, and they have to go on this quest to save the day. And that's basically it. This was essentially going to be a Disney Plus television series, so we could spend more time developing characters, getting to know characters. And apparently they decided to whittle it all down and make it a movie. Worked in their favor because they made a lot of money and broke a lot of records this past weekend. But it didn't have the charm of the original. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the first one didn't stick out to me so much. So I revisited it the night before I went to see this one. And I'm like, oh shit, this is a really good movie. This has great music. It's a fun story, enjoyable characters.
Shiny.
But this one was like, yeah. I loved it. He isn't technically in the movie until we get to a little mid-credit scene. Lin-Manuel Miranda did not return to do the music for this. They got these two TikTok stars to do the music.
What?
And you can tell. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. People who made music online, they're like, oh, these people are good. And I guess Lin would kind of talk to them and guide them, but the heart and soul wasn't there. Yeah. It just felt ungenuine. There's no songs that I'm like, after watching the first movie, those multiple songs
you had songs stuck in your head. Yes. And you weren't mad at it either. It was just like, you know what? I
hadn't seen it since I saw the first movie, and Shiny, the song you were just talking about, was the one in my head. And then it's like, oh, then there's You're Welcome and this and that. I'm like, oh yeah. But none of that charm was in this. And the animation looked a little bit not as good as the original, in my opinion.
Wow.
Now, I also was taken aback a little bit because I saw this Tuesday night, the preview night before it actually came out at 9:00, thinking, all right, this is going to be good. Nope. Bunch of families. And right in front of me, there are two ladies with their young children, each on their phone doing whatever. And even their little daughter, one of them had her phone out, like doing TikToks and stuff. And I had to be like, could you guys please put your phone away? It's like, we're here to watch a movie. I don't know why you have kids out, like 5-year-old children out at 9:00 seeing a movie, but whatever. I'm judging you, but fucking shut your phones off. Enjoy the movie. So I don't know. Hopefully that wasn't the reason I'm a little riled up by this, but I wanted more out of it, especially after enjoying the first movie. What I did like, though, it was fun seeing these characters come together again, but it's interesting. There's points like in the first movie, Maui was kind of the one who was like, the glass is half is more empty than half and empty, Moana it was half full, and like they kind of reverse characters a little bit. There's some points where Moana's like, maybe I should give up, and he's like, no, we're gonna do this, and it's like, oh, all right, you're switching their roles. I love that. Nice, but it took about an act and a half for them to get together, and there's this bad woman in here who might not be bad, and they're building up a big baddie, and we don't meet him until the mid-credit scene where they set up a Thanos style kind of bullshit.
Oh,
like, oh, we're starting a
come
Moana
on,
verse, it seems like.
guys.
And now, yeah, as you can tell from the premise of she has to find this island to reunite everybody. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but you can kind of predict where it's going.
Something tells me we don't find the island yet. Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's too bad. I mean, like you said, the first one is so charming, and I love this representation that's going on too. The peoples of the Pacific Islands, like let's really dig into that stuff.
Yes.
I like that, showing the culture and not shying away from that background, but to then just try to turn it into a money machine thing, you start cheating where the source, where it comes from. And
yes,
you had this incredible amount of it's funny because I just saw a little clip of the actress that voices Moana, how like she voiced her when she was 14 years old,
and now she's like 20 something.
Yeah, she's 24, and she's like, I can't believe that I'm getting this opportunity to do this again. I'm like, that's really awesome. I'm glad that it's worked out for you that way. But it's like, I hope she gets more stuff that's not just more Moana now. You know?
That was the nice part, though. They did age up the character like her, and they really gave it some levity, because she's her parents now have a younger daughter who looks up to Moana, and Moana now realizes she has something to lose. Before, she had nothing to lose. Now she's like, if I don't come back, it's going to break my little sister's heart. So there's a little bit of inner struggle, which I've respected.
Cool. Yeah.
But they didn't build it up good enough, in my opinion. And I wonder if this is the fact that the original first draft of Moana was written by Taika Waititi, and this, he just kind of has a smaller role, not as hands-on as he had before. So I wonder, without him and without Lin, I don't know.
Those sound like two really big components to be missing,
and,
you know.
And that's the thing. It's like, I'm going to a Disney movie to have fun, not to be like dragged down a bit. And I don't know. They started it. I'm like, all right, this is cool, because there's literally a character in here, the farmer. He's an old man, and he hates when they sing. He's like, oh, please don't sing again. I don't want to be a part of this. And it's like, you're the audience. But then you're like, oh, please do sing, but sing better shit.
Yeah,
man. I don't know, man.
Fair enough. But that's interesting.
I'm not a kid. I will see if they do a third. But the thing I really got out of watching the first one again, besides the respect for it, we know that they're filming a live action one now. And it's like, what are they going to do live action that's going to be better and add upon this story? Yeah. I don't understand why. Don't do it. But
let's do a live action Toy Story now, I guess. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I don't, why don't rehash that stuff. Moana still stands up as a movie as is.
Right.
We do not need to, but whatever. I guess the money
did
printing machine's going.
This?
No, not
I think
yet.
I gave. I have not. All right. So I'm going to give Moana 2 2.5 slices of toast. I didn't hate it. I had a decent time watching it. I will see the third, and I hope that they're going to listen to the audience and hopefully make it a little more fun for people.
Yeah. I hope so too. Yeah. I really enjoyed the first one. I had good memories of watching it with the nieces. One of the nieces I just saw in Georgia. First time I ever watched it was her sitting in my lap like the whole time, and we were laughing through the whole thing. Like, it had such a great time.
Yeah,
so I have strong memories, strong positive memories of watching that first one. It's too bad that they went the direction they did with the creative aspect of Moana 2. But maybe, like you said, hopefully they course correct and bring some of those other elements back.
Because there's clearly going to be another one with the mid-credit scene, but this has smashed records, and it's only been out for less than a week at this point.
I mean, that alone is enough reason for them to make a third one if they've making that much money. So, as we've seen in the past, they'll just keep cranking them out till we stop watching them. So,
but that's never
all right. Yeah.
Woo. Well, that brings us to the end of the reviews, Dennis.
There we go.
Times.
And quite the spread of scores, anywhere from 1.5 to 3. Like, and we each had a 3 on this one. We each had a 1.5 and a 2.5. Like, that's
never really happens.
Yeah, where it's like this even distribution of review slices there. Nice. Well, as folks, as you know, like, holiday season is kind of a mixed bag of films. You get these big tentpole things that we've been looking forward to for a long time, and then you get these kind of things that they just kind of crapped out because they know people are going to be going to the movies. So, Ed, actually, I'm kind of curious, folks. Hit us up on the socials if you're listening. How many of you are the normal like Christmas Day moviegoers? That was never a thing for me personally.
Me neither.
There's a lot of families that is a big deal though. Like Christmas night, boom, we're going to the movies.
Although I'm not gonna lie, I'm not opposed to it. I
don't know. Yeah,
movie.
Although
it was fun a couple of years before I moved away, me and my old roommate, friend of the show, Rick, we started a tradition where we would go Christmas Eve and watch what looked like it could be one of the worst movies to release that season to have a good time. And sometimes, to our surprise, you get a good movie. We enjoyed Annie, the Annie reboot, and we thought it was going to be garbage.
That's right.
And then you got 47 Ronin, Keanu Reeves, not so good. Or Total Recall, fucking it doesn't matter. So that was a fun thing to do. Like if you're in college, you don't go home.
Yeah.
Or you don't have family around. Go see a movie with your friends and family or whoever, yourself. Fuck it.
Right.
Who cares? But what you should do is on Saturday, December 14th, there's some short films that you should definitely check out, Dennis.
Abso-fucking-lutely. We're doing Movie Toast, the festival, part 4, or year 4, or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you call it.
4th time around the horn. I am extremely excited for this lineup. I think this is some of the stronger across the board shorts that we've had to share with you folks. It's always been entertaining in the past, but this one is definitely it's been elevated to a certain
league
level
of its own.
It truly is. It truly is. No ill marks against those who submitted in the past, but this one was the hardest for us to award the awards to, for Adam and I to come to a like one-to-one agreement on these. And I am proud of that statement too. I like that it was that difficult to sift through them.
Listen, in the past, it's been fun being like, yep, we agree. This is it. Yeah. But it's like, there was not one single time in this festival. And we both changed each other's takes on some things.
We did.
Like,
yes.
all right, you're right. This is true. This
too.
is, yeah.
Like yeah. And I'm very excited to share these films with you guys. These filmmakers have done some incredible work. They've given so much of themselves on the screen, on the page, and I think you're gonna have a great time watching them with us.
Now that's going to be premiering over on our YouTube page, of course, on December 14th. I believe it's going to be about 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. But we'll have the dates, we'll have the deets, we'll have the links and everything all over on our social media. So please follow us to get all that stuff as we're approaching the festival. You can find us at movie_toast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, pretty much wherever. Like that's where you're getting all the deets on this bad boy.
Oh yeah, please.
That's coming before our next episode.
It is. So, it is. So yeah, please give them a follow. Pay attention to those dates coming by so you can catch it live. It's only going to be up for a limited time. In order to keep the validity of those entrants in other film festivals, we can't have it live on YouTube for too long. So
we'd
please catch it as soon as you can. And enjoy it with some friends. Like gather around wherever you're going to watch it.
And the best part is the love, man. The little community we build for that day. We have it's all pre-recorded and whatnot. But there is live chat that we all talk and have a good time, and that's the best part about it. Bringing people together and seeing people respect one another's work.
Yes,
it's something.
This is about the appreciation of the art here. It's like where we always talk about, as Adam said, we always talk about the big budget movies, all of the big theatrical stuff. These are the starting places of where films we're eventually going to see, filmmakers we are going to see one day on the big screen. I firmly believe among all of these films, there are some incredible future filmmakers that will be making their impact on the industry at some point. And this is how it starts, is getting these things made and getting them seen. So please come join us.
Yes. And say you can't make it to that, you don't want to follow us on the social. Could you, if you made it this far, let us know what you think about the show over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Let us know what you like, what you dislike. We want to make the show as golden toasty and buttery for you as possible. we change things because we want the show to be the best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's all we want to hear is your honest opinion, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the delicious golden toastiness that you may have to offer. But please let us know. Apple Podcasts, drop us a review.
That's right. But you don't want to do any of that. I don't know why you're listening or watching the show. But there's one thing you can do that we always ask of our audience, folks.
That's right, Adam. Please stay toasty.
Lights, camera, action, it's review time. Dennis and Adam, we gon' blow your mind. We're stepping up to the plate, ready to swing. Analyzing movies like a scientist would play.
All right. I feel good about that. But one thing that we didn't talk about yet, it sounds like you're on Skeleton Crew, but I want to jump back a little bit. Have you had a chance to watch our second half of the final season of Cobra Kai yet?
No, we had to save that because we didn't. It dropped like right before we went to Georgia, and we're like, no, we're not gonna like chip away at it because if we're gonna watch it, we're gonna do it all.
I need to talk about it with you, man.
Yes,
so when you get to it, please.
Yeah, I honestly by next episode, that's very likely going to be the case.
Like I gotta watch Penguin so I can talk about that with you, but.
Oh yeah,
boy, there's stuff in this season.
Oh no, Cobra Kai for sure, dude. Yeah,
fantastic.
I'm looking forward to that chat.
But how you digging? How you digging Skeleton Crew? I gotta check it out. Once I'm done with the boys, I think that's what I'm jumping into next.
Charmed my fucking pants off.
Nice.
It is so it is sweet. It is engrossing. It is so very clearly a part of the Star Wars universe, yet so different than anything else we've seen so far in the best possible way. It feels like it fits in, but I'm not. You're not getting bogged down with the Skywalker storyline. Just in the first 3 episodes, it's carved out its little corner of the universe of where it belongs. The only, to be honest, the only things that I've really picked up that are like extracurricular calling out to other stuff you might be aware of if you're like a huge Star Wars fan. Excuse me. There's a few symbols that you'd recognize, like credits and things, but that's honestly more of a plot point too, because you realize that means it's significant what currency is being used, because that's saying a lot about where they're from. And then it's like the races of like some of the non-human characters and the non-humans that you see around some of the aliens, like you only see once or twice throughout other Star Wars movies and shows. A couple of the alien characters that are like on Jabba the Hutt's barge in Return of the Jedi. You see more of them. The Wolf Man guy that you see in Mos Eisley Cantina. You see some more of the it's nice.
I hear we get a little Ewok talk in the second episode. Is that false? Or Battle of Endor style talk?
Oh, you do? Okay, I see what that's referencing. It's not an Ewok, but there is a little. I know, but you're gonna like the little creature that's nice. Talking.
And I'm excited.
The cute little elephant guy, Neil.
Oh yeah, that guy's badass. He's like a little Max Rebo style guy.
Great. Yeah, I think he's the same. He's the same type of.
Can't wait to meet
alien
that fucker.
The kids do an incredible job. I mean, they are extremely talented. The rest of the cast is doing a good job. Quick shot of Jaleel White.
At the end, I saw he's in 2.
That. You finally get to hear Nick Frost. I was so excited that they.
Yes, he's a robot, right?
Yep, he's an old.
Is he like a leading character? Or is he just
supporting
like one and done?
But a critical. Oh no! I think he's on for the run.
Nice.
Given, I don't want to spoil how he's involved, but just the way you are. Because I was curious, because the way it's touted of it being like Lost in Space but Star Wars, I'm like, how are we going to get to that point? The way they did it was great. The motivation of the individual characters and just the relationship between them all. I think it's working fantastic. Even though it's only the first 2 episodes, which is about, let's see, first one's 45 minutes, the second one's like 28 minutes or something like that.
Fair enough.
Really good so far. It's the world is fully fleshed out. Of course, anything in a live action Star Wars series, they're trying to make it look as cinematic as possible. And I don't feel like they shortchanged us anywhere. The sets, the
Nice.
practical sets look awesome. The costumes are great. Any prosthetics or anything like that is just so on point. I know I'm just like Star Wars fanboying, but to me,
please. I mean,
this is
coming from where
above.
Acolyte was and some other, and then Boba Fett, we were on the fence a little bit with some of these things.
This may be early and it may be a bold statement so far, but so far I think this is better. It's better than Book of Boba Fett, better than Acolyte, probably better than Kenobi.
And I wasn't a Ahsoka fan personally, but I know some people liked it.
Probably, I mean, it might be like
the lore.
This one is, Ahsoka. I totally give you because it's super.
And this you can go fresh, not knowing really anything, right?
Exactly. That's
and
that's
you can
one of
get
the things
kids
I love.
intrigued. It's not about like bullshit that kids can't.
I had a moment that was like, so I remember just rewatching the original trilogy when I was like in kindergarten. That was one of my usual after. If it wasn't a day Power Rangers was on TV, this was something I was very likely to be watching, popping into the VHS. If this was something available to me, and when I was that age, I would be loving every second of it because it's putting you in the controls of the ship.
Like you're actually a character. You're not. One day I want to be that Luke Skywalker. I am these fucking kids.
Yes, exactly. And that was the coolest part of it. Yes, and like I could be going on these adventures myself as I am. I don't need to pretend like I am one of these hero characters. It's no. I could imagine myself as a child in this world, and that's what they're executing so well.
Nice.
That last quick shot of Jude Law at the end of
I was going to say, do we get him at the very end?
Oh, and it's so satisfying. I was not expecting. I won't spoil that, but I was not expecting the way we'd be introduced to him. That reveal was fantastic, and boy howdy!
Is that the end of the first of the pilot or the second episode?
Second episode.
Oh, we wait.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things I love is the pilot is so focused on setting up our cast, setting up our characters, and then just starting the journey. Like that's right where it ends. Is like finally when they kick off going out into space.
I mean, this shouldn't be any surprise. This is the guy who made, by far, in my opinion, one of the best Spider-Man trilogies that we have, and some other fine films. And wow.
Yeah, it's off to a stellar start. I think you're gonna enjoy yourself, man. And along with the rest of the audience, you guys, I think you're gonna have a good time checking this one out. I think we're on the dawn of probably one of the top tier live action Star Wars series we have yet to see.
Thank the heavens.
So
we're due for one.
Yeah.
Well,
we get some more.
That's
Andor.
a good way to close out the show, saving us from some mediocre stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, man. No, that's solid episode. Thank you for joining us, folks. Hopefully there's some recommendations up in there, or you've changed your opinion about one thing or another. Go add some stuff to your queues.
If we're wrong or right, let us know over on the socials. We want to hear from you and get your takes on this stuff. And we might talk about it on the show. But we'll have to wait and find out if that will happen.
That's right. Until then, thank you for joining us, Toasties. Until next time.